The stock market just hit its 23rd record high this year. 23rd. Home prices are higher than ever. Net worth in America has never been larger. By any objective measure, this is one of the richest moments in the history of the country. But here's the thing. At the exact same time, consumer sentiment toward the economy has fallen to its lowest level ever recorded. It's lower than the early 80s recession, lower than 2008, lower than the pandemic lockdowns. So how do you explain that? How do you get record highs and record pessimism at the exact same moment? You've probably felt this yourself. The news says the economy is booming. Your 401k statement says your balance hit a new high, but your bank account tells a different story. The average 401k in America hit a record high this year, over $160,000. And in that same year, a record number of people cashed those accounts out early. They paid the penalty just to get access to the money. About 6% of savers raided their retirement accounts. That's triple the rate before the pandemic. 36% of them did it to avoid foreclosure or eviction. 31% because of medical expenses, 13% to cover tuition. So there are two stories running at the same time. A story about the economy on paper, and a story about the economy in practice. And they look nothing alike. By now, you've heard the phrase, everyone owns stocks now. It gets thrown around every time someone points out that regular people aren't seeing the boom. And technically, about 58% of Americans do own some stock, usually through a 401k. But owning some stocks and owning enough to matter are two completely different things. Here's what the Federal Reserve's own data shows. There are about 134 million households in America. The richest 1% of them, about 1.3 million households, own more than half of all the stocks in the country. If you zoom out to the top 10%, about 13 million households, they own roughly 87% of everything. That means the bottom 90% of the country, 120 million households, share just 13% of the stock market between them. And it gets worse the further down you go. The bottom half of Americans, the teachers, the nurses, the bus drivers, the people who run the day-to-day of this country, 67 million households, own just 1% of the stock market. Not 1% each, 1% total, split between all 67 million of them. That's not a participation problem. That's a distribution problem. Here's what that gap looks like in actual dollars. In 2025, the stock market returned about 16%. For the bottom half of the country, median stock holdings around $13,000. That's a paper gain of about $2,000. For the top 10%, sitting on roughly $600,000 in stocks, the same 16% handed them about $96,000. Same return, same market. Wildly different outcome, and this isn't a one-year thing. The market's up over 120% since 2020. Everyone got led into the market. The money still went to the same people. Whoever owns the stocks gets the gains. Everyone else is fighting over what's left. Step away from stocks for a second though, because I don't think that's actually the main story. The main story is what people earn. Last month, average hourly earnings were up about 3.6% year over year. Sounds like a raise. Until you notice inflation ran 3.8% over the same period. The raise was gone before it hit anyone's account. When Gallup asked Americans to name their single biggest financial problem, it wasn't wages, it wasn't jobs, it was cost of living. 31% said so, close to the highest that number's been in over 20 years of Gallup asking. Makes sense. Prices are up more than 28% since 2020. Eggs, gas, rent, insurance, all of it costs more, and paychecks aren't keeping pace. 55% of people say their finances are getting worse. So where's the spending money actually coming from? If things are this bad, debt mostly. Americans are carrying about $1.25 trillion in credit card debt at an average rate around 23%. And I want to be clear about who's carrying it. This isn't people chasing airline points, it's Bankrate finding that a third of people with credit card debt blame day-to-day expenses. They're not financing a trip, they're financing groceries. Mike Croxan, who runs the country's largest nonprofit credit counseling network, has a name for it. A disturbing shift from discretionary debt to survival debt. 61% of cardholders in debt have been carrying it a year or more, up 8 points from 2024. For a lot of these people, there's genuinely no easy way out of it. Then there's buy now, pay later. The burrito split into 4 payments memes are funny right up until you look at the numbers. Over 90 million Americans use it. More than a quarter per lending tree have used it for groceries, and over half say they couldn't get by without it. A real chunk of the country is now splitting up its grocery run just to make it to payday. The number that actually stopped me though, the personal savings rate has fallen to about 2.6%, near a record low, cut in half from 5.5% just a year ago. And that headline number is still too kind. The BLS and BA broke it down by income and found the bottom half of the country, over 65 million households, has a negative savings rate. They're spending more than they take home after taxes every single month. That's not no cushion. That's actively going backward, month after month, while the top keeps pulling away. Economists have called this a K-shaped economy for years. One arm up, one arm down. I don't think that's the right letter anymore. It's an E picture, a normal E, 3 bars. Stretch the top one way out past the other 2. Leave the bottom one flat on the floor. Tilt the middle one so it's sliding downward. That's the US economy right now. 3 classes, 3 genuinely different lives. Top bar, the richest 10%, the ownership class, their money is in stocks and real estate, both of which have been ripping. Homes up 55% since 2020. The market up 120% plus. They own the stuff that's inflating, so of course their net worth keeps climbing. Bottom bar, 67 million households that together hold about 1% of the stock market. Negative savings, survival debt, groceries on an installment plan. They don't own any of what's going up. Middle bar is the one I keep thinking about, honestly, because it's quieter. Nobody's in crisis. But the raises got eaten, and Heather Long, chief economist at Navy Federal Credit Union, described watching people migrate to spending at warehouse and discount stores like Costco, Walmart, and Aldi, migrating away from the Whole Foods type of experiences. That's not a crisis, that's a slow slide, and you can feel it if you're in it. The actual numbers, top 10% holds 68% of net worth and just over half of income. Middle 40% holds 29% of net worth and about a third of income. Bottom half is left with 2.5% of net worth and roughly 10% of income. None of that is stable. The gap keeps widening, which is basically the whole disconnect. Add up the market gains and the wealth, and every chart trending up. And yeah, on paper it's a boom. Those charts just don't say who's holding any of it. So you get record stock prices and record low consumer sentiment in the same country at the same time, because it's not really the same economy for everyone living in it.